My name is Bill Matson. I am not a technology person. I just kind of dabble in this stuff. And the more you dabble in it, the better you get at trying to understand some of the things that are going on. Eastman Cares, which is a committee that I am a part of, provides technology services. We also provide services for people that are looking for help with small jobs. Rob is here. He has some of the coolest stuff. He's got a lot cooler things that he plays around with than I do. But our whole mission is to be able to help people here in Eastman who have simple tasks that they're trying to work their way through. And right now, one of the simple tasks that people are thinking their way through is this new choice that we have, given that Consolidated Communications, the old telephone company, has rebranded themselves and installed fiber optic cable throughout Eastman and are providing now internet services. So the point of the presentation this evening is going to be to walk you down through kind of a basic primer on all of the various things that are going on and to help you be able to think about whether making a shift in terms of your service is appropriate. Spoiler alert in terms of what we'll be talking about, even if you choose not to change your internet provider, I can tell you that the fact that competition has come to Eastman gives you some leverage in terms of getting some better pricing. And when we get towards the end of the presentation, walk you down through all of that. There are a lot of experts here in various shapes and forms. Some people have already made the shift to the new company Fidium. Some have stayed with Xfinity. I will invite all of those people who have those experiences to go ahead and share them this evening. That'll make it better for everybody. And you should ask questions throughout. Because that's how we're going to be sure that the level of information I'm providing here tonight is consistent with what you're looking for. So with that said, let's start our journey by looking at how to get rid of that little thing. The basics in terms of how things work. And I'm setting this foundation because it gets confusing at times. You've got your TV and there's a cable coming in for the TV, and then you've got your internet, and sometimes you're using the internet to provide TV. So I thought I would spend just a couple of minutes going through the basics so that we're all on the same level in terms of understanding the fundamentals of the technology. First, internet service provider. That's a term you'll hear me use quite a few times over the course of the presentation. Think of it like a utility. Think of it like somebody bringing electric lines into your house and the electric doesn't do anything but power. Eastman was basically Xfinity or Comcast. They rebranded themselves because people didn't like Comcast. So we'll change our name. We'll call ourselves Xfinity. Everybody will be much happier. Then, surprise, surprise, we started seeing fiber optic cable being installed throughout Eastman. Many people thought that was Hub 66. And for those of you who aren't aware, Hub 66 got some money from the federal government to bring internet to some of the lesser served places in Grantham. So down Route 10 that didn't have any high-speed internet. We thought they would come up into Eastman. In fact, they have a plan to do that someday. But Fidium, which is really Consolidated rebranding because nobody liked Consolidated either, Fidium jumped the gun and put fiber optic cable throughout Eastman and started earlier this year beginning to install it in people's homes. So both of them provide options as far as internet or information coming to your home. And think of it, again, like a utility. That feeds the electronics we use, your TV, your phone, your computer. All of those things need information, and that information comes through the internet service provider. And then lastly, a lot of the information that comes in at times is stuff that we watch on TV. So I'll talk a little bit about options that we have as far as TV services, whether it's with Comcast or some of the streaming services are out there and available. So these are the basics, and this is what we're going to walk our way down through over the course of the next hour. Starting with internet service providers. Just a little bit of information on how this has evolved. And there are a lot of people here who are old enough to understand and remember the good old days of a telephone modem. Anybody here have a telephone modem in their house at one point in time or another? You know, that screeching noise when, you know, you finally got the connection. And you had that blazing speed of 28 kilobytes per second. That was big stuff back then, and was good enough to be able to get your email, and you could watch, if you had about 10 or 15 minutes, the screen paint for the website that you were trying to take a look at. We then evolved to DSL, and this is big stuff. Rather than 28K, you're now at 5,000 kilobytes per second. And back in the day, this was Consolidated's offering, right? In fact, there are a few folks that still were using this a couple years ago when I went to help them with a tech call. This was seen as blazing speeds. And this would do a good job with your email and would actually do a decent job as far as loading some websites, but you're out of luck if you're trying to stream any video or other content like we have today. Fast forward to today, and what many people have in their homes is something that looks like this. It's a cable modem. This starts at about 300 MIPS per second. So that's 300,000. So we went from 28 to 5,000 to 300,000 bits per second. And this is where it starts to get interesting. You can start to do lots of things when you have that kind of bandwidth and speed in your home, including bringing in video so you can run your TV through the internet rather than having to do it through an old cable box. So these are the fundamentals in terms of the evolution of speed. And a lot of people say, well, how much speed do I need? And I'm going to talk a little bit about that later, but a spoiler alert, the speeds that we're talking about now, unless you're into big time gaming and want to set up a separate money laundering operation in your basement, the speeds that we're talking about are going to be more than enough to take care of everything that you want to do in your home. So when people are trying to sell you more speed, generally speaking, you don't need it for the kinds of things we'll do. And I'll show you that in just a minute. Let's talk about our choices in internet service providers. In the red corner, Xfinity Internet. Their base service is 300 MIPS per second. Right now, they have a special deal, or did at least when I called them because of their competitor coming on board. For $65 a month, you could get 1 gig. So that's now 1,000 MIPS per second. And they would also throw in a modem rental for free. So they were matching Xfinity's pricing. And I'll talk a little bit more about that and how you get to that number in just a moment. They are reacting to Fidium coming on board. Fidium's base package is 300 MIPS per second. They also offer 1 gig service, and they're doing this through their brand new fiber optic infrastructure. So all those new wires you saw being installed around the community in the front part of this year were fiber optic cables, a much newer technology and a better technology with respect to just providing internet services. Now, there are a couple of other options. I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about them, particularly when we're up in the mountains where there's lousy cell phone service. But we have a place in Boston, and in Boston, we don't have any wires coming into our home at all. We have a little box that Verizon provided us, and that allows us to, through a 5G network, be able to have wireless internet coming into your home. And for anybody who wants to give some business to Elon Musk, he has Starlink, which also provides satellite communications. That's really good if you're out in the backwoods and you need some help, but probably not a reliable or appropriate way to be able to do internet in a place like Eastman. So these are your options as far as internet's concerned. I said that I would talk a little bit about how much speed you need. There is a really cool website, and I'm going to put these slides up on the Eastman portal so that people can look at them later and be able to pull out some of the information if you want it. But there's a great website on Consumer Reports that basically helps you determine how much bandwidth do you need in your home, how much speed do you need to be able to do the kinds of things that you're doing. And I ran through a couple of examples that I put together just to show you what I mean when I say that for the kinds of things that we do, you really don't need that much. So in this first example, for the folks in the back, I had 4 people that are doing web browsing at the same time, 4 people doing email, 2 people streaming videos, 1 device that was doing 4K video, a bunch of other things in the house like webcams and that. I put in all these things thinking, gee, that's a lot. That only took 92, you only needed 92 MIPS per second to be able to power that much stuff going on in your home. So when I talk about the fact that you really don't need to worry about having a gig of download speed, that's what's going on there. Yes. It's not stable. Yes. You have to be sure that, right, that the quality of the signal coming into your home is such that you're going to be able to have a good steady signal. Yes. Intuitively, it should be more stable because it's newer technology. I mean, if you think about the cable, the copper cable that we're using with Xfinity, it's been here for 40 years. So the reliability of it is such that you're probably need to make more calls to Comcast to get them to fix the fundamental infrastructure you're going to do with a new infrastructure that's on board. But I'm going to show you something in just a moment that allow you to kind of do your own view of what kind of stability you have, and you can use that to go back to the providers if it isn't where it should be. Bottom line here, 300 is fine for most homes. The pricing for 1 gig service, particularly when they throw in the equipment rental for free, so it's $10 more to go with 1 gig, I go ahead and do it. But again, the fundamental message is you shouldn't spend a lot of time worrying about speed because the speeds that you're able to get even with the most basic packages are probably more than most of us will need. Check. Yeah, I'm going to talk a little bit about that towards the end in terms of pricing, but they are now talking about locking in a price for you. There are 2 parts of that puzzle, and I would caution you to be careful about how you sign on to these things. If you want to lock in a price for me for 5 years, I'm good with that. If you want me to guarantee my business to you for 5 years or to have a penalty, I would not sign up for that right now with an internet service provider because that technology is evolving quickly and the prices are dropping. I'll talk about TV in a few minutes. That's a little bit different. But for internet service providers, the price points are coming down, not going up. Other questions? Yes. They're putting fiber optic right to the house. So they're going to have to run a new line to your house if you choose to go with Fidium service. And for right now, at least, they're waiving what they say is a $200 installation fee to be able to do that work. Another question? Yes. Most of it's in the ground. It depends on what your existing service is in terms of how they're getting wires to your house, but most people they dig a trench and they bury it in the trench. Yes. Yeah, the question is it just for Grantham or is it for all parts of Eastman? Interestingly enough, Springfield had it before we did. So Amy Hoffman's in the back. She was one of the early adopters. So before Fidium was offering services here, she lives out off from Windingwood and had them installing it in her home a couple weeks before the rest of us even got it. So yeah, it's in all parts of Eastman. George. I don't know, but do you have your Comcast done through the condominium association, or is it done for each individual house? So I suspect that would be the same that they would do for the fiber optic cable as well. A lot of times they're following the same conduits into the home. Dallas. Nah, probably not. It depends. There's a person I was working with up off from Anderson Pond who actually had a conduit. So they had a pipe that ran from the street to the home. They could run it through that pipe. So that made it easy for Fidium because they could just use the existing infrastructure. If there's not, they're going to have to dig a new trench. Other questions? All right. There was a question just talking about internet speed. Another resource I would call your attention to is something that I use a lot. It's called Speed Test. The website for it is speedtest.net. You can either run it through your browser or you can put an app on your phone that allows you to go anywhere you want in your home and see what the internet speed is in that part of your house. There's a couple things that are good about that. First of all, you can test to see the advertised versus the real speed that you have for what you receive. I ran this one this morning. My 1 gig service from Xfinity was actually putting out 450 MIPS per second in the room that I was actually running it in. Again, who cares? I'm never going to use anything close to that in terms of the bandwidth, but it just does point out that the fact that you're using Wi-Fi in your home for the most part, wireless communication. So the further you are from that box, the weaker your signal is going to be. And this app will allow you to basically see what's going on as far as the signal transmission within your home. It also will talk about the stability of the connection. And when you're all done with the test, these numbers are numbers you could take back to Fidium or to Comcast and say, I've got a problem in terms of what I'm seeing versus what you're supposed to be delivering. So it's just a great way for being able to test Wi-Fi throughout your home. And also a way of knowing, gee, do I need to put in a booster because the box is down in the basement and I'm up in the second floor and I'm not getting any signal at all. First of all, you can test that theory to see if you're getting a signal. And then secondly, know whether you've got a problem that's more about your home Wi-Fi system than it is about the services coming into your home. Yes. Yep. Great question. So the question was, are these additive? So are all these things drawing from that same type of communication coming into your home? The answer to that is yes. Again, if you have 400 MIPS per second coming into your home and the computer is taking up 2 of that, you got a lot of room to play with. And that's where we are today versus the good old days of a dial-up modem or a DSL line when you were right close to the edge of what they would be able to provide as far as a pipe of information into your house. So for most of us now, you can load up as much as you could possibly imagine and not get close to the bandwidth that's available for you as far as information coming into your home. Yes, yes. So great question. So when I talked about all of those things that I was running and it took 92 MIPS per second, I've got 470 coming into my house. So you could multiply that by 4 and still have a little bit of room left over as far as information. That's why I'm saying all the conversations about speed these days and you want 1 gig or maybe 2 gig, don't worry about that. That's not something that, given the way the technology has evolved, will be important in terms of your decision making and what you need to have in order to make this all work for you. Any other questions? Yes. Should be the same. Should be the same. There are a number of different tools that you can use to do speed tests. Could be, although in this particular case, it was using the Xfinity server for the independent speed test that was being done. So they're in the same neighborhood. I just like this one because it's independent and you can use it in lots of different settings. If I come to your house with a call on questions about Wi-Fi, I usually start by running a speed test just to see what's going on as far as the internet speed in your home. And sometimes the problem is the technology, the fundamental infrastructure coming to the house has something wrong with it. They need to make a change at the pole, or they need to make a change in the wire coming into your home. It has nothing to do with what's in your house. So this helps you try and sort through those issues. Yes. Yeah. Um, I don't know the answer to that question. I think it's just what they randomly choose in terms of the servers they're working off from. What they're really trying to do is just find a reliable server that's sending out information and see how quickly that information is coming into your home, which is what the bandwidth is that you see for the download speed. I would point out one other difference, by the way, between Fidium and Xfinity. And this is for people that are really technical and using a lot of upload capability. For Comcast, the upload speeds are relatively modest here. You see, download is 471, upload is 39 MIPS per second. Most of us don't care about that because we're not uploading a lot of information. But if you decide you're going to run your own TV program and you want to upload tons and tons of video into the internet, if you did this same speed test comparison with Fidium and fiber optic, you'd find that the upload and download speeds are virtually the same. Again, not something you need to worry about because most of us aren't trying to produce local television within our homes and trying to upload all that. But just to show you a little bit of the difference in terms of how fiber optics works versus the old cable systems. Yes. 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 Just like Comcast does. So, right. What? So when I say proprietary, I don't know if you can go out to Best Buy and buy a router that will supply modem services for Fidium. And if you go with the 1 gig service for $65 or $55 a month, they're giving you the rental anyway. Yeah, modem router combined. So yes, check. Right, but they also have a modem beyond that, don't they? Okay. Yes. Yes. So we might get more technical than we want to be here, but you have to convert from light to this electric. And there's a box that Fidium supplies. You don't have to pay rental on that box. Correct. Yep. So that box is there, but just like you have with Comcast, there's a modem/router that has to be installed to basically get the information to your computers and other things that are in the house. The rental fee on that is included as part of the basic price for Fidium service. When I renegotiate with Xfinity, surprise, surprise, they actually provided the modem as a free service anyway. And for those of you who are doing the math at home, the rental on those modems, when they were charging, were about $15 a month. If you go to Best Buy and buy them, they're probably about $200 to $300 a month. And I said, well, that's good math. I'll go ahead and do that. The payback's not that long until a thunderstorm came through and knocked out my modem. And you have to go back to square one. So on the basic issue of renting versus buying a modem, I would rent. I wouldn't buy. Yes. Yep. Yes. Yeah. Same basic concept. So you're using the modem, and then you're using a separate system that you put in your home to spread Wi-Fi signals throughout the house. It'll work exactly the same way. All right. Now, we've got the information coming into the house. Those are the internet service providers. Let's talk about what the information does once it gets to your house and some of the options that are available to you there. Specifically, let's talk about TV, since that is something that, particularly on cold winter nights in Grantham, become kind of interesting. There are two things that, at least in our house, we watch on TV. Some of the stuff we watch is live, and some of the stuff we watch are movies and other channels. Live TV traditionally has been the cable box, right? You have a cable box in your home, and the cable box has all the channels, all those great channels from Plattsburgh. I can't wait to get Plattsburgh news. I know more about what's going on in Plattsburgh than Boston. Or in the new world, you can say, I don't want cable TV anymore. I'm going to go ahead and stream live TV. And there are a whole bunch of services that I'll talk about here in just a minute that will, for a fee, provide you with live TV. So ABC, NBC, CBS, PBS, Fox, all of those things will be provided. In addition to that, more and more people now are going and looking at movie channels. And when I say movie channels, that's in quotes because there are documentaries and series and all the other things that are on board. And this is just a part of the potpourri of various services that for a small fee, you can sign up for and will provide you with additional programming. What I would tell you about this whole universe is this is a difficult business. Remember, I talked about internet service providers and the fact that those prices are coming down. So I would not lock in a price with an internet service provider because next week somebody's going to come out with a better deal. Generally speaking, this business is moving in the opposite direction. The prices are going up. I don't know how they make money at this right now because all of the TV stations that they send to you, all of the movies they provide to you, all of those things cost the companies that are providing you with that service money to be able to offer. So when you start to look at the subscription fees, particularly when we talk about live TV in a moment, what you're going to find is the prices are all pretty similar. And that's because there just isn't a lot of play in the margins for the providers of those stations for you, particularly when you start to talk about live TV. So any service you choose here will probably cost you something, and the costs are going to be pretty similar. So let's talk about choices for live TV for a second, because I think most people are probably a little bit more comfortable or familiar with, yeah, I go Netflix and Netflix is going to charge me whatever they charge. There really are two basic options here. The first is the option that we all came to know and love for many years, and that's the Xfinity cable box. You have a cable that comes into your home. It happens to also look like the cable that goes to your internet, but it's different. It splits. It goes into a cable box, and this provides you with the channels that offer you live TV. The package that many of us would pick up is about $100 a month. It can be a little bit more. It can be a little bit less. You're going to pay $15 a month for the privilege of that cable box that actually provides you with the channel guide and all the other things that you have. And you will find that there are discounts for bundling with internet and phone, and I'll talk a little bit more about that later. I would tell you right up front, if you want simple and a great user interface, you can't do much better than what Comcast has. Their remote, their voice remote, and all those things is really, really good. And the streaming services will come close to it, but they aren't quite there yet in terms of the quality. Tony. Yeah, that's exactly right. So if you record shows, because I can't stand watching all the pharmaceutical commercials on the evening news, you know, the evening news is actually only 20 minutes long. Don't buy the 30 minutes. That recording service is part of the box that Comcast is providing. And you'll find that the streaming services that are providing live TV also have a DVR capability associated with them. I'll come back to you in just a second, Melanie. Let me talk about the other side of the equation, and we'll come back and talk about other questions you have about TV. Live TV streaming services, there are lots of options. Lots of options. I personally use DirecTV, YouTube TV, Hulu, and Live TV. All of these services, surprise, surprise, cost around $100 a month, a little bit more, a little bit less, depending upon what channels you want. All of those also include DVR services. The interesting part of these services is you do not need a box. This is streaming through the internet. So whatever you're using on your TV, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in just a second, to be able to provide in programming on your TV will also allow you to do the streaming services as well. Each service has their own niche, and there's a really good website on CNET that I've found that does a great job every year of comparing the various options. It gives you the price points. It talks about what their strengths and weaknesses are in terms of the various services they can provide. As I provide advice to people as far as live TV is concerned, if you have one home and only one home, generally speaking, I would say stick with Comcast. If you have more than one home that you spend time down in Florida, you spend time down in Boston, I'll show you the numbers in a minute, but it's a no-brainer to go with live TV streaming service because Comcast will charge you for each home. These streaming services are portable, so you can take them between your various homes and pay only once for the subscription. Now, Melanie. Okay. What about the other movie channels? These all cost extra. Sometimes they'll load them in with your Comcast bill or your Xfinity bill, so you feel better about it, but you're still paying extra. There are packages sometimes that you'll find, like Disney, ESPN, and Hulu are owned by the same company, Disney, so you can get bundling packages there. What I've found in terms of these movie channels is when you're together for Thanksgiving, get everybody around the table from your family and find out who's subscribed to what. Because some of these allow you to share freely and others will allow you to share with a modest uptick in the charge. So the way to be able to save a little bit of money here is generally about sharing accounts rather than seeing any huge discounts in terms of what's being offered there. Do you need anything to watch these shows on your TV? Well, if you're with Comcast, you need a cable box. These go for $15 a month. There's not much discount available there. You're going to pay that, and you need to have one of those boxes in your house. A way to be able to save money is you only need to have one of those boxes in your house. If you have 4 TVs or 5 TVs that you're using to watch TV in different parts of your house, many of you sign up with Comcast, and for $10 more a month, they'll give you a small satellite box that you can use to watch Comcast shows on that TV. A Comcast technician was in our house about 5 years ago, and he said, "Why are you doing that? We have this app called Xfinity Stream, and as long as you have this cable box in your house, you can go ahead and watch Comcast shows, Xfinity shows, including things that you've recorded on that TV using the smart app that is provided by Xfinity for free. Yes. Go ahead. I think you need one box in your house. You're sure? You have to be a little bit tech savvy. Okay. But yeah, basic minimum 20 gigs. And that includes live TV services. Okay, that's new news. That's something that's just changed because it used to be that you could not use the additional streaming service unless you had one box in the house. So that's good. That's good. Now, that's one way of being able to get live TV in your home. The other is to have a smart TV. So a lot of you have new TVs. The smart TVs have the ability of being able to load apps just like you do on your phone, your mobile phone. You put the app on your TV. It can be one of the streaming services we talked about before, or it could be the Xfinity Stream app if you wanted. And your smart TV will allow you to do the same things that you were paying the rental for the cable box to do. If you have an older, stupid TV, you can make them smart. These streaming sticks, the Amazon Fire Stick, the Roku Stick, they cost anywhere from $30 to $40 a month. Not $30 to $40 period. One-time buy and you're done. The remote will control your TV as well as the content that you're bringing into your TV. And this allows you to ditch the rental fees for the Comcast equipment. I talked earlier about the fact that a modem to me didn't make sense because I'm paying $15 a month and I got to pay $200 or more to be able to buy the equipment. This payback period is 3 months. So this one's a good purchase. And again, from a Eastman Cares tech help, probably one of the bigger things that I end up doing is just helping people set these up on their TV. Takes about half an hour and you're off to the races. Not necessarily, because there's a streaming live TV service from Comcast that you can run on an app on that box as well. Yes. Yes. Now it's news to me, and we can come over and play around with that if you want, that you can do it even without the main box in your house. But you certainly, I've done it with a whole bunch of TVs that are the second or third or fourth TV in a home. Yes. Yeah. 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 This is a pretty standard app. So if you have one of these streaming sticks, whether it's Amazon or Xfinity, and you go into the search bar and you type XF, you'll see Xfinity Stream there, and you just download that app and you're off to the races. Yes. It's a good question. I've got a bunch of them. Yeah, it's tough to tell. I've had pretty good luck with them and not having to replace them. But they're at a price point that I wouldn't think that they're going to last forever. Yeah. Yeah. The comment that's being made up here, in case you didn't hear it, is there's a heat issue because you get behind the TV. If it's sitting right on the TV, the Fire Stick can get hot and that makes them less effective. They sell, or they might actually provide for free in the case of Roku, extenders that allow you to get it far enough away from the TV. They originally made them because at times the stick is sitting in a place where it's going to run up against the wall. So the bottom line is that you might want to look at that as another way of being able to take a little wear and tear off from that device. But again, at $30 to $40 a month, I wouldn't expect them to last forever. I'm sorry, $30 to $40 period. Thank you. Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, right. Roku, by the way, also has extenders, but you have to ask for them. They give them to you for free. So if you actually do order a Roku device, you should just automatically ask for an extender just in case you need it sometime in the future. Other questions? Yes. Yeah. So the comment that's being made up front is not all TVs are as smart as the others. Some were held back in middle school and didn't quite get all the programming that they needed. So at times, even though you have a smart TV, it may not get all the apps you want. These devices, generally speaking, will pick up every app that you're looking for. I use Roku just because I always have, but I wouldn't say that that's anything that's a well-educated and well-researched decision between the two. Some people, by the way, use Apple TV, and that also provides the ability to download apps. So if you've got some old hardware sitting around your house that you've used to run Netflix and other things on, it's worth taking a look to see if that will indeed help you to do what you need to do. Yeah. Streaming box. Yeah. Yeah, the comment that's being made up front is just validating the fact that Apple TV does have a product. It costs a lot more, by the way. You aren't going to get that for $30 or $40, but that technology is held up pretty well. It's possible. Yeah, there's one of the comments that were made up here is it may be just that you're looking for a software update on the smart TV. I have a smart TV that was held back in Boston. That TV, there are no software updates that are going to make that problem go away. So that particular TV, I put a Roku on it and it works just fine. Okay. Now, let's go down to some numbers here. So we'll bring it down to the end. Breaking it all down, and I'm going to tell my story. These numbers are changing constantly. So you're going to need to make your own calls to be able to figure out what would work in your case. So because I'm retired and I can do this, I was joking with my friend Phil. You can tell people when they move into retirement because the first thing you do in retirement is you call Comcast and you try and negotiate down the cost of your cable bill. That was harder to do in the old days because there wasn't any or else associated with that. Because you put an antenna in your roof, it doesn't work so well here. So even with that, I was constantly kind of paying attention to Xfinity and talking to them about what kind of deal I would be able to get on internet. The deal that I had until about 3 months ago was for 300 MIPS per second of internet and rental of a modem router and a landline. We have a security system that requires us to have an old-fashioned landline. I got that all for $107 a month. That was the cost that I paid, and I would call them religiously to try and negotiate that down a little bit more. Fidium comes on board. Fidium says, we got a great deal for you. We'll give you 1 gig internet. You also get a free rental of the modem router. We'll also give you the landline. It's only going to cost you $75 a month. So I said, that sounds like a good deal. I'm saving a fair amount of money here. I'm going to go ahead and change into Fidium. So I go to the Comcast website And I'm already dreading it because you end up in phone tree hell trying to get somebody live to talk to. So the bot's there and the bot says, "What do you need?" And I said, "I need to cancel my service." Well, a miraculous thing happens. They say, "Can we call you?" I didn't have to wait even a minute. The phone's ringing. I have my friend Josh, who actually speaks really clear English. And he's from the retention loyalty desk. So Josh on the retention loyalty desk, I said, I'm sorry. I know I've been a customer of yours for a long time, but here's the deal I got from Fidium. So what Xfinity then said was, well, here's what we'll do. We'll give you 1 gig service. We're going to give you a free modem router. We're going to give you a landline, and we're going to charge you $77 a month. I went ahead and said, okay, that sounds pretty good, and that's what I did. I did that because it literally took less than 30 minutes. From years and years and years of trying to negotiate with Comcast, I've never seen anything like it. It was wicked fast. In the work that I do in helping folks with technology problems, I use the Xfinity Wi-Fi hotspots a lot. What most of you probably don't know is in your homes, you have 2 channels in terms of the internet. One is a private internet that only you have access to, and the other is a public internet that anybody who is an Xfinity customer has access to. So that to me is somewhat valuable, and I retain that access because I continue to be an Xfinity customer. They offer me 2-year price protection, so that price is guaranteed for 2 years. But, and this is the important but that I mentioned earlier, I am not locked in. I would never sign a contract with them that said I've got to stick with them for 2 years. In this particular example, they're providing price protection, but they're not requiring contracts. And I think that's a trend that they seem to be moving towards from what I've seen. Yes? No. Well, I didn't. I had it ordered. I literally had Fidium ordered, and I had an install date that was about a week out that was set up. So I had to cancel that, and I'll come back and tell that part of the story here in just a minute. But yeah, I knew that this was a real option at that point, and I suspect that Xfinity had gotten enough calls that they knew it was a real option too, and that they needed to respond to that. Yes. Okay. I don't. It might be. I don't know because I did do electronic billing. The CFO in our house is shaking her head yes. So we do electronic billing. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yep. I I'm surprised there may be a problem in translation because once the information is in your house, what you do with that information is up to you. There shouldn't be a limit in terms of how many devices are connected. I'd be happy to look at that with you, but what you're saying, go ahead. I I can't imagine a scenario where you couldn't run everything that you wanted in your house. Right, right. So yeah, I'm happy to look at that, but if you've got a 1 gig coming into your house, you ought to be able to run everything in your house and the next 2 houses down the street. Right, they can't count devices. But even with that, they don't count devices. They're counting they're just looking at the amount of information they put in the house, and they don't care how you use it. Yes, Tony. Phone. And the reason why is the question was, is it better to do negotiations over the phone or at the Comcast store? I'm pretty sure the Comcast store in West Love is a contract store. So they don't have the same pricing flexibility that they would have if you're talking to my friend Josh at the loyalty retention desk. In fact, I asked Josh, what the hell? I've been looking for this price for a long time. Why haven't you done that before? And what Josh says, well, you didn't talk to me. Well, what are you going to do? Now, I would tell you that I did stay with Xfinity. It is a very tenuous relationship I have with them right now. We could easily shift over to Fidium. And the only risk I'm taking is that Fidium decides they're going to start charging for installation. I don't think they will, but if they did, that kind of makes me stupid for not taking advantage of it when I could. Yes. No. In Boston, we have Verizon, and we don't have a wire coming into the house in Boston. Now, I'm sitting in the middle of the city. I have 5G, 4 bars of coverage. And by the way, that locked us in at $35 a month for the next 5 years. Now, that's the beauty of competition. I've got probably 8 different choices we have for internet in Boston. Whereas here, we had just 1. Now we're really happy that we've got 2. In Boston, yes, we don't have a landline. So let's go back to the basics. So these are the internet service provider, right? The information coming in your house. Here, it's Comcast. There, it's Verizon. In both places, I have DirecTV, and I have 1 account, and I can stream it through Comcast here, or I can stream it through Verizon in Boston. It's exactly the same channel, same DVR, same everything. And that was the reason that, I'll get to the TV example here in just a minute, it was a no-brainer for me to go with DirecTV rather than Comcast, because in the old days, I had a Comcast TV account in Boston and a Comcast TV account here, and both charged us $100 and whatever a month for the privilege of having that service available. And they can't share between physical locations. They don't share between physical locations. George. TV in just a second. Yeah, I'll show you the TV in just a second. I think the price protection on Fidium is they talk about the first year, and then they tell you what the price is going to be after that first year. So they protect it for a year, and I think they say that this is a promotional price, and the price is going to go up $10 a month after the first year. That was what it was 2 months ago. Carol. Well, it depends on who you talk to. If you talk to, there's a person that lives up the street from us who is really, really tech savvy. He would say, why are you using copper cable? Use fiber optic. It's so much new. It's new. It's reliable. It's the same upload and download speeds. It's great. For the kind of stuff I do, I can't tell the difference, to be very honest with you. But the fundamental infrastructure is brand new for Fidium, and it is 40 years old for Comcast. So you kind of do the math from there. Yes, Bob. Right. Cellular network. The cellular network. So when we go back and forth to Boston at times, you can put a hotspot on your phone. So you can literally log on and make this a router that will send internet signal to your computer. It's the same basic concept, although this is a box. You don't need to leave your phone there. It's just a box that sits in our condo. And that's, by the way, we'll talk a little bit in a second about Comcast trying to get into the phone business. That's where it's going. I think if you look 10 years out, you're not going to be seeing people having cables run into their house. There's going to be a 5G tower, and they're going to be providing the information that you need for internet through the air, not through a physical wire. Yes. Yes. We've got a couple. Mr. Weber, can you speak loud? That's a joke. Yeah, generally speaking, the routers that you use with Comcast will work with Fidium as well. So you don't have to change the extenders. You will have to program them to work with the new router or the new modem that you have in your house. But generally speaking, they will work. Now, I would tell you, I've read some of the same stuff some of the other folks in the room have read. Not everybody's had great experience. So you're talking about a utility. And sometimes utilities are really good and sometimes not so much. I would say when I canceled my order to install Fidium, I got a call from the district manager. He doesn't know I do tech help. He just knew I canceled my order. And he spent 15 minutes with me on the phone trying to understand. And he wasn't putting a hard sale on to come back. He just wanted to understand why I changed my mind. So I think they are working hard to try and win business. I suspect the more people that are signing up, the more difficult it becomes for them in terms of getting things done, particularly when people ask them to be in their 120-degree attic for 7 hours. There were 4 customers that day that didn't get service because Phil wouldn't have it come in through the front door. So you're going to find that. And by the way, we found that with Comcast for years. And I stayed with Comcast, so I'm not here trying to sell Fidium's product. I'm just saying it's wonderful that we've got an option. Jane. I'm shocked. Other questions? Yes. I was I was so excited because about a year ago, I made a tech call and the person that I was working with didn't have had a lousy cell service and had called Verizon, and she said that they had offered her a discount because they knew the service was lousy and they were going to fix it. That's got to be over 18 months ago now. So I wouldn't hold my breath. You might have seen posts from me that you can through the internet get a Verizon. It's just a basic small cell for your house. That they cost 250, but if you browbeat Verizon, they'll give it to you for free. And if you get it, I will come and set it up for you. But that's about the best we can hope for right now. Yeah. Been there, done that. Yep, all those things. I don't see that happening anytime soon. Although the Corrado's next door neighbor bought a cell phone booster, not an antenna goes on your roof and it comes down into the house. I bought one of those 5 years ago. It was worthless. This thing actually worked. So you can find them at Best Buy right now. That may be if you're trying to find a way to get a few more bars of cell service, but it's not going to be enough to power your house. Yes. I'm going to talk to it in just a minute. Yeah, I'm going to talk to that in just a second. Here. Right. The only problem with that is if your internet goes down, that goes down with it. Right. 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 Which isn't all that bad sometimes. Bob. Yeah. Yep. Yep. It's it's all, you know, it's if you like gambling, it's you know what the parameters of your bet are. You spent $300, $15 a month, or $200, you spend $15 a month in rental. Okay. Anyway, other questions? Yes. Eventually, yes. I don't know yet. That was one of the most frustrating things with Comcast. What's being talked about is the boosters that bring the signal to throughout the community have batteries in them on the poles. The batteries are good for about 6 hours, maybe more, maybe less. So even though you have a generator in your house that's got your modem running the way you want it to run, or if you paid for the extra battery that they have for the modem that Comcast provides you, as soon as that battery dies on the pole, the internet goes down. It's too early. I just don't know the answer on that for Fidium. Yes. Uh-huh. You don't. So one of the things, if you have a problem with your service, I'm happy to come and help you troubleshoot it. But I would say probably 2 or 3 times out of 10, it's Comcast's problem out on the pole or coming into your house. The problem is they scare the bejeebies out of you because they say, if we come in and we find that the problem's in your house, we're going to charge you for the house call. So I'm happy to come over and help you troubleshoot that. It's not really hard to do, but Comcast makes a living off from scaring people from having a technician come out at times. So, yes. In terms of video, it's like I hope so. Right. Good. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. So the point is you have to have something that converts the light into electric. That plugs in. It has to plug into something in your house. And if you don't have a whole house generator, you want to make sure that what it plugs into is actually on the generator. We ended up rewiring a whole bunch of stuff in our house because even the modem wasn't on a generator. Other questions? All right. Let's talk a little bit about TV. I've alluded to some of this. Xfinity cable box, DirecTV streaming, the two services. I was looking at them today. There's an ultimate package in Xfinity. It has 125 channels. You have all the major networks and all the great news that comes from Burlington and Plattsburgh. DirecTV, in our case, because we have the Boston address, we use We get Boston stations. I get Nesson on DirecTV streaming. There is no Nesson unless you want to pay $32 more a month. Within the last year, and it's basically it's not that they're being bad guys. These networks are charging a lot of money for the privilege of carrying their services, and from time to time you will see, particularly with the streaming services, war breakout. So there was about a 3-week period where DirecTV wasn't carrying any ABC stations. And by the way, up here, if you buy DirecTV or use DirecTV as your streaming services, they still don't have ABC for the Grantham fee because they're having a contract dispute with whoever the ABC affiliate is as far as what rates they charge. So you have to be really careful in looking at what channels are available. Nesson is Red Sox. New England Sports Network, right. So I ran these numbers this morning. You know, they're about the same. So this gets back to, for me, the big advantage I have is I was having to pay Comcast for both houses. I can use this in up to 3 homes. So if you've got more than 1 home, I'm begging you, let me come over and help you because you will save money, Carl. I promise you, by moving over here. I will tell you, this user interface is not as good as this one. Comcast, for all the abuse I like to give them, has actually got a pretty cool remote that works really well, and it's just much easier to use. No, no, there is very little wiggle room on this because this is a low margin business. They have to pay for all these channels you're getting. So they're just not really into giving you a lot of extra stuff here. Other promotions. Somebody mentioned sell. Go ahead, Carl. Yeah. So what Carl's pointing out is the Xfinity will allow you to basically dial down your service when you go to Florida for the winter. So you only have to pay $35 a month or whatever it is, which is kind of crazy because you're not using it at all. When you're using the streaming services, they don't care. You log in just like you would on your PC or your phone or whatever, wherever you happen to be. And as long as there aren't more than 3 people logged in at any one given point in time, it's just fine. It doesn't care where you are. So yes, that is an advantage. Your phone, where you have 20. Yeah. Yeah. So if you've got more than 20 TVs in your home, that probably, I'm just half joking, but yeah, there are some limitations. They're not bad. Other promotions worth considering. Free installation from Fidium. I think that's going to stick around for a while, but you never know. There is a discount. They were offering a $150 prepaid card for TV streaming services from Fidium. Fidium has a deal with DirecTV, but does not provide live TV services themselves. So they're going to refer you to DirecTV as a partner. You could just as easily go with Hulu or YouTube TV or any number of other options. The big one that, even though I'm retired, I haven't had enough time and mental energy to deal with is the phone. As was pointed out earlier, Comcast looks at the future and says, this really sucks. We got all this old cable. It's going to rust and fall apart. People are moving into fiber. What are we going to do? Well, we're going to get out of the cable business and we're going to become a cell phone provider. So they contracted with Verizon. They use Verizon's network. So all the same towers you use if you have a Verizon phone work if you have an Xfinity phone. I found out kind of the hard way or an easy way that even the boosters you have, Carol, in your house, will work with an Xfinity phone just like they work with a Verizon phone. So it is exactly the same cellular network. The deal Xfinity is trying to convince me to take now is the first line for cell coverage will be free for the first year, $40 for each additional line. I'm paying $65 a line, give or take, with Verizon right now. They also started talking to me about all the free phones I was going to get, and they buy the old phones. We have 8 phones in our plan. When our kids got married, a lot of people, you know, their kids move away, they get their own cell phones. Our kids' spouses came onto our plan. When their kids start to get cell phones, they'll be on our plan. My father-in-law is on our plan. We've got more freaking lines than I know what to do with, and I'm just not sure how I want to deal with all that. Probably, yeah. So it's one of those things that I think there are some very, very good deals here. When I did this presentation a couple years ago, Beverly Marshall got a terrific deal. And when you start to add all of that in, you start to get into some pretty substantial savings. So there are good deals there if you have the bandwidth and you don't have 8 lines that you're trying to deal with in 15 different parts of the country. So it's worth giving a thought to. Yes. Yeah. Oh, there's a, right. There are a lot of different services here. Sally. Yep. So there are lots. This space is changing rapidly. This space is changing very, very rapidly. The only reason I put it up here is we talk about where there are pressure points and opportunities to negotiate with Comcast or Xfinity. This is one, because they desperately want your cell business because they need that install base if they're going to survive. All right, let's bring it home. Final thoughts. If you take nothing else away from this, competition is a good thing and is driving down prices. The key words that you need to use when you call is, I'm going to cancel my service. I was making a house call with a person. She is a wonderful person. She is in her 90s. And I said, I want to negotiate on your behalf for the cell phone. And I'm on the phone and I said to the Comcast person, I want to cancel my service. And I thought she was going to have a heart attack and die right there. They will not cancel your service when you say this. They will start to try and work with you to get a better price. And the fact that we now have a comparison point with Fidium that you can point to should help. Is it going to work every time? Probably not. But at least in my experience, it got me about 30% off my monthly internet bill. There is a learning curve on all this stuff. It will drive you crazy at times because the thing that you used to push this button for, you're going to have to push that button for. And once you get used to it, it's okay. But it is something that if you don't like change, you're probably going to want to try and find a way to leverage Comcast down or Xfinity down. I use those interchangeably, rather than making the shift over to the new service. And I would do a quick commercial for Eastman Cares Tech Help. That's the email. If you need help with any of this, if you have questions after we finish up, I'm more than happy to help. It's a lot of fun. It's a hobby for me. It's just something that it's a puzzle. It's like doing Wordle in the morning. You come over and try and figure out what's going on. I'm more than happy to help any of you as you're trying to work through these decisions. And I appreciate your time and attention this evening.